you have a dream about something, and then that voice inside shows up, and it's like, oh, you could never do it, or you're not good enough, or you know what, a better actor should play that role. So I think that deep down I always wanted to try. But
Katie Joy from Without a Crystal Ball recently spoke out about the legal situation involving Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Justin Baldoni. According to her, several people reached out privately to share details that gave her a better understanding of what's happening behind the scenes. She admits that a lot of guessing happens online when full facts aren't available, and she tries to base her conclusions on what's shared in court and through trusted sources. Katie strongly believes Blake never intended to go to trial. Instead, she suspects this legal process is a way to get revenge on Baldoni and cause him emotional pain. In her opinion, Blake appears to be trying to make someone else responsible for her own decisions, possibly as a way to deal with personal frustration or hurt. Katie also feels that Blake is misusing the court system, pointing to her own experiences in litigation as context. Katie says that one common tactic used by those trying to overwhelm others through the legal system is filing a large number of motions, which makes things complicated for the judge and raises costs for the opposing party. She believes Blake is doing exactly that, creating confusion and trying to make it look like others aren't cooperating. A big issue raised is the use of subpoenas. Katie claims Blake filed a questionable lawsuit under the name Banzan Inc., which didn't actually name any defendants. Just days after filing, she allegedly subpoenaed Stephanie Jones without warning. Katie says Jones ended up handing over her phone, and now Blake is using her subpoena powers to drag more people into the case. Even though they had no direct role in it, Blake is also requesting documents from third parties, including former Wayfair employees, and Katie highlights that some of these subpoenas were filed in the wrong states. For example, she brought motions in New York for subpoenas that were issued in California and Georgia, even though a New York judge has no power to enforce them there. Recently, a judge denied Blake's motion to compel third-party Wayfair employees to provide certain documents. Wayfair had already explained they were gathering the requested materials and didn't owe anything until July. Still, Blake pushed for immediate action, which the judge dismissed. This shows, according to Katie, that Blake's real motive might be to pressure and exhaust the other side. Rather than seek justice, another denial followed quickly, this time related to Blake's attempt to get information from an internal investigation being conducted by Wayfair's legal team. The judge said those documents were protected by attorney-client privilege and couldn't be shared. Katie points out that the judge was consistent, as he had previously denied Wayfair access to similar privileged material. Blake argued that Wayfair's own legal defense made the investigation relevant, but the company disagreed, and the judge sided with them. This marks the third loss for Blake regarding motions to compel. Katie believes Blake keeps filing these motions not because they are necessary, but to keep the legal pressure going, increase expenses, and create the appearance of non-cooperation. The battle over email records also continues. Blake suspects hidden email drafts were used to secretly share information. Wayfair's legal team responded, stating there's no evidence such a system was used, and they have no relevant inboxes to produce. They explained that proving something didn't happen is incredibly difficult. Despite that, Blake keeps pushing for them to prove a negative. In summary, Katie believes this legal effort is more about control, damage, and publicity than true justice. The court continues to reject Blake's aggressive legal tactics, and it remains to be seen how much further she's willing to take it. Before anything officially started, people on social media had already begun talking. The backlash and online buzz started just days earlier, especially after Blake Lively appeared alone on the red carpet on August 6 for her film's premiere. Justin wasn't there, and that absence raised eyebrows. In the days before the event, promotional materials for the movie came out, but Justin wasn't featured in any of them. Then fans noticed that Blake had unfollowed Justin on social media. Other cast members also stopped following him, which fueled more rumors. August 6 marked the red carpet appearance, and following that, articles began popping up, questioning why Justin wasn't with Blake and whether they were in a feud. Then, on August 9, Jed Wallace came into the picture. That same day, Leslie Sloan's article attacking Justin was published in outlets like Daily Mail and Page 6. According to court documents, Melissa emailed Jamie on August 8, informing him about Jed's involvement and mentioning a plan that would cost $30,000 per month for 3 months, referred to as, quote, 2. There was a more expensive option, quote, 1, costing $175,000, which involved spreading theories online, managing Reddit threads, and a full crisis response team, but they never went with that plan. Later on August 8, Katie followed up with an invoice and praised Jed and his team. Jed replied later, saying he was ready and had experts assigned to this project. On August 9, Jamie finally responded, apologizing for the delay due to the hectic premiere. He welcomed Jed and asked the legal team to handle payment quickly. Brian from the legal side asked for tax information to confirm payment details, and someone else confirmed that this was all under their contract with TAG, who was working with Street Relations. Jed later apologized for a late response, saying he had just landed from a flight but that his team had been working at full speed on Wayfair's reputation efforts. None of the emails mentioned anything about sexual harassment or revenge. Jed never said anything about attacking Blake or harming her. His only focus seemed to be helping Wayfair manage public perception. According to Blake's updated complaint, she believed Jed's involvement started on August 7th, but the emails show he didn't actually begin until August 9th, after all the drama had already started. Quote, 2. What they chose only involved social media management to respond to negative posts and keep the conversation focused on the film. There's no mention of targeting Blake. Even Jed said he barely needed to step in because Reddit users were already defending Wayfair in Blake's filing. She also talks about messages exchanged between Melissa and Jenny, mentioning a social combat plan around August 7th. But again, Jed didn't get involved until later. This timeline weakens Blake's claim that a campaign against her started earlier, at the same time. Blake and Ryan allegedly called Justin names, warned him not to come to the premiere, and made it seem like no one wanted to work with him. That kind of behavior could damage a movie release. The studio had millions invested and needed to avoid a public failure. Trying to protect that investment and refocus attention on the movie doesn't automatically mean there was a smear campaign. It looks more like they were trying to survive the chaos. It's pretty surprising when you think about what Blake Lively considers a smear campaign. Her latest move is to subpoena Brian Friedman, the lawyer representing Justin, and claim he's involved in the negative press surrounding her. In response, Brian's law firm has filed a motion in California to block that subpoena. They also included a letter that gives insight into how they plan to defend themselves. The letter was written by attorney Ellen Goff and sent on May 23, shortly after Blake had expressed anger about another person, Venal, being subpoenaed by Wayfair. To retaliate, she decided to go after Brian, especially after being accused of improper actions, including possible intimidation involving Taylor Swift. Blake's team wants access to Brian's private communications and records, but the law is clear that trying to get private information from a legal team representing the opposing side is heavily discouraged. The motion argues that Blake is asking for way too much documents that are protected by attorney-client privilege, irrelevant financial records, and private phone information. Interestingly, Blake was recently denied access to other private attorney-client communications. But now she's pushing for even more of the same. The letter from Ellen Goff questions how Blake can claim this is a smear campaign. She points out that under free speech protections, simply posting opinions or even hiring media strategists isn't against the law. For Blake to prove defamation, she must show that someone made false and harmful statements with bad intent. Just because a law firm might have hired content creators or paid influencers doesn't mean any illegal action took place. Talking about someone publicly, especially if the statements are true or opinion-based, is not considered defamation. Even the judge had already ruled that calling out someone publicly is not the same as launching a smear campaign. The motion to block Blake's subpoena states that her request is overly broad and seems more like an attempt to punish and intimidate Brian's legal team than a real effort to find helpful evidence. She's asking for massive amounts of irrelevant and protected data, not just from Wayfair but directly from their lawyers. The motion also notes that Blake and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, filed other aggressive motions after negative publicity began. Attempts to discredit the legal team working for Wayfair. It seems like Blake is upset that public opinion is shifting against her, especially after her own legal actions and decisions drew media attention. Rather than accept responsibility, she's accusing others of launching attacks. But the motion argues this is her own doing. She filed the lawsuit, made public claims, and is now reacting to criticism by targeting others. People involved in the film say that from the beginning, Blake wanted full creative control. The production team didn't even want her, but Sony insisted on her casting. When Blake tried to take over and demanded to see early footage called Daily, said no. That's when things started going downhill. After being denied access, Blake allegedly began taking steps to gain control of the film and possibly the rights to future books by the author. It seems the root of the problem was always creative differences, not a coordinated effort to harm her reputation. From the very beginning, this situation was all about creative control. Blake Lively wanted to be in charge of the film's direction, and when she couldn't get her way, she tried different tactics to shift the power in her favor. Whether it was making serious claims against people like Justin or Jamie, not showing up to set, making threats about not promoting the movie, or refusing to sign contracts, she did everything possible to gain influence over the production. There were so many threats, especially legal ones, that it became overwhelming for the people working on the project. Justin, in particular, was under a lot of pressure. Even though he didn't want to work with Blake, he had to keep the peace because Sony, the company involved with distributing the movie, supported her. They wanted Blake on board, so Justin had no choice but to go along with it, even when it went against what he wanted creatively. What makes this even more surprising is that Justin didn't have much power in the situation. Even though he was the one who originally secured the rights to the book, he had discovered something valuable, the story, and everyone wanted to be part of it. Especially since there was a sequel involved. Blake saw this as her big opportunity. Her goal was to prove to Sony that she was capable enough to direct the next movie. She hoped that by showing how involved she was in this project, they would choose her to lead the sequel. But what Blake didn't seem to understand was that Sony didn't actually own the rights to the sequel. Justin did. That meant he had the final say, not Sony. While she thought Sony could make those decisions, in reality, they were only distributing the movie. So even though she was trying hard to show how much control she had on set, arguing over where to put the lights, how scenes should look, or how actors should move, those efforts weren't going to get her what she wanted. A lot of their conflicts were really about these creative choices. She wanted to be seen as the one in charge, and many of those moments were captured on camera. Everything she did seemed to be part of a bigger plan to get the next film. But in the end, Justin had more authority because he held the rights. Sony. Now, after all this, Blake is upset that people are reacting to her actions. When things don't go her way, she blames others and calls it a smear campaign. But like Ellen Goff pointed out, using the term smear campaign isn't even legally valid unless it includes false and damaging statements. Talking about someone in public isn't the same as defamation, as for all the recent legal developments. It seems Blake's efforts to demand more information and accuse others like attorney Brian Freerd are only adding more drama. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.